You're going to love the new retirement home. They have knitting classes." Jennifer's smile was as fake as her spray tan. My son Daniel nodded like a trained dog, while my other son Marcus mentally counted the money they'd make from selling my properties. I just smiled and said yes, that it sounded wonderful, but inside, something broke for good. They picked the fanciest restaurant in the city for this setup. Everything looked perfect for what was basically my execution. They made it look like a celebration when really they were burying me alive. "Mum, we know you've been a little confused lately," Daniel said, his voice dripping with fake concern. He wore a grey suit I bought him for his college graduation. Now he was using it to bury me, confused. That word cut deep. I'd faked some memory problems to test them, to see if my kids would take care of me when I really needed them. The answer sat right in front of me, wearing the emerald green dress I'd given her. "Dr. Sanchez says it would be for the best," Marcus lied. "A controlled environment, professional care, activities designed for people your age, people my age. Like turning 72 made me a different species. Like building a real estate empire from scratch meant nothing." "And the knitting classes are really therapeutic," Jennifer added. "You can make tablecloths, scarves, useful things." Useful things. While they carved up my properties like vultures, I'd be making tablecloths in a room that smelled like bleach and sadness. "When would the move be?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "Tomorrow," Daniel answered way too fast. "We've already made all the arrangements." "And what will happen to my properties?" The silence was thick. They looked at each other like kids caught stealing cookies. "Don't worry about that, Mom," Marcus finally said. "We'll take care of everything. It's too much responsibility for you right now. Too much responsibility." The same properties I'd bought, fixed up, and managed for decades were suddenly too much for me. The same investments I'd grown from $5,000 to $1.5 million suddenly needed younger minds. That night, I pretended to sleep. I needed to be wide awake for what was coming. At 11 p.m., I heard their voices in my kitchen. They thought I was knocked out. Big mistake. From my bedroom, I listened to their celebration. Their whispers carried clearly, calculating the value of my beach house, the downtown condo, my investments. The word incompetence was used, followed by Jennifer's cruel laugh. They had my will out and were toasting to my eventual silence with my own champagne. Daniel calculated it all. $400,000 for the main house, $300 for the beach house, $200 for the condo, and the investments. Almost $1.5 million total. The fruit of my life's work, calculated down to the last cent while I was supposedly drugged in my own bed. And the best part, Marcus added, is that she'll never know what all of this is really worth. They completely underestimated me. At 5 a.m., while they slept off their celebration, I got dressed in my best black pantsuit. I took only the essentials, my passport, hidden jewelry, and the key to a safe deposit box in another city. In that box were documents that would change everything. The taxi arrived on time. At the airport, I bought a one-way ticket to a small coastal town where I owned a property they knew nothing about. During the flight, I remembered my mother's words. "Barbara, never fully trust anyone. Not even your own children. Blood can be corrupted, but dignity is eternal." She was right, and I was about to show them that a 72-year-old woman could be more dangerous than any enemy they'd ever imagined. The plane landed in a town I hadn't visited in 30 years. Port St. Joe, Florida, a name my children had never heard me speak. The salt air hit my face like a slap of memories. This was where it all began, where I bought my first property with life savings from my secretary job. $5,000 that grew into the empire my children wanted to steal. The taxi stopped in front of a yellow house with green shutters. "Looks like nobody's lived here in a while," the driver said. I smiled. It's perfect. The house was my secret escape plan, kept quiet for decades. Inside smelled like old wood and sea salt. Furniture was covered with white sheets. In the kitchen, I found a note. "Mrs. Patterson, I've been waiting for you all these years. Rosa." My heart skipped. Rosa had been my housekeeper for 15 years until my children fired her, claiming she was an unnecessary expense. Another lie to control my life. I heard footsteps on the porch. The door opened and there she was. Rosa, 30 years older, but with the same warm eyes. "I knew you'd come," she said simply. "When I heard what your children were planning, I knew you'd find a way here." "How did you know?" "Jennifer called me a month ago wanting information about your properties and bank accounts. I told her I didn't know anything." Rosa smiled. "But I did know. I knew about this house, the documents you kept here, your plans. I've been taking care of everything, waiting for this day." For the first time in months, someone was looking at me like a whole person. "The documents are safe," Rosa whispered. "Your plan is still intact." She led me to a back room converted into a small office with a safe built into the wall. "The combination is still the same. Your husband's birthday, my dear Richard. He'd passed away 10 years ago, but his wisdom continued to protect me. Never let anyone else control your destiny, Barbara. Not even your children." Inside the safe were documents I'd hidden for decades, deeds to properties my children didn't know existed, investments in international banks, a completely different will. But the most important thing was a thick folder marked HC Hope Center. "Do you remember your dream?" Rosa asked. "You wanted to create a place where older women could live with dignity, where they wouldn't be treated like burdens." Of course I remembered. A home for women my age who'd been abandoned by their families or forgotten by society. "Everything is ready," Rosa continued. "The permits, the blueprints, the funds. It just needed you to come back to activate it." Tears streamed down my face. Here was proof that I'd always had a bigger plan. "There's something else," Rosa said, pulling out a cell phone. "Mr. Thompson has been waiting for your call." Mr. Thompson, my trusted lawyer, the only professional who knew the full extent of my plans. I'd hired him in secret 5 years ago. I dialed the number. He answered on the second ring. "Barbara, I knew you'd call today. Are you ready to begin?" "More than ready, Mr. Thompson." "It's time to remind my children who I really am." "Everything is set for tomorrow," Mr. Thompson said. "Your children have called a family meeting for 10 a.m. at your house. They think they're going to sign the papers to transfer your assets." "And our plan?" "Perfect. I have all the original documents, the recordings we made last year, and the video. Rosa's testimony will be crucial. Recording the confessions had been my idea. Insurance against the betrayal I sensed was coming. In those recordings, my children openly admitted they were waiting for me to die, that they saw me as an obstacle to their plans." "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked. "Once we start, there's no turning back." I thought of Jennifer's fake smile, Daniel's lies, Marcus's greed. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The next day, I rang the doorbell of my own house. The symbolism was perfect. They'd taken over my life so completely that I had to ask permission to enter my own home. Jennifer opened the door. Her face went through surprise, fear, rapid calculation, and finally that fake smile. "Barbara, my God, we were so worried," she said. "Where have you been?" "We called the police." "I was thinking," I replied simply, "and making some important decisions." Daniel and Marcus came running from the living room. Their faces showed a mixture of relief and panic. "Mum, you had us worried sick," Daniel said, trying to hug me. I stepped back firmly. "Worried about me or worried about your plans?" The silence pressed against my skin. Marcus cleared his throat nervously while Jennifer exchanged quick glances with Daniel. "I don't know what you mean," Marcus muttered, but his voice trembled. "I think you know exactly what I mean." Mr. Thompson knocked on the door. The lawyer they'd hired stood up from the dining room table where they'd spread out papers for the fraudulent transfer. "Who is it?" asked Mr. Stevens, looking nervous. My legal representative, I announced. George Thompson, specialist in elder fraud and asset protection. The colour drained from my children's faces. Mr. Thompson entered with Rosa at his side, carrying a briefcase containing the destruction of their plans. Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Thompson said formally, I understand there are documents requiring your signature to transfer your properties to your children. That's right, I confirmed. Perfect. But before we proceed, I need to verify you are mentally competent to make this decision. Of course she's competent, Jennifer jumped in too quickly. She just gets a little confused sometimes. Interesting, Mr. Thompson smiled like a shark. Because I have here a very recent medical report from Dr. Sanchez confirming that Mrs. Patterson is in excellent mental health and has full decision-making capacity. I pulled the report from my purse. A full cognitive assessment conducted by an independent geriatric specialist arranged by Mr. Thompson. It confirmed I had full decision-making capacity. I also have here, Mr. Thompson continued, recordings made in this very house exactly 1 year ago. The colour completely vanished from my children's faces. I don't know what you're talking about, Marcus lied weakly. Mr. Thompson pressed play. My children's own voices filled the room, coldly discussing my hoped-for death, plans to declare me incompetent, and their intention to dump me in the cheapest home available. Every cruel word they'd spoken, preserved forever. The silence that followed was like death. Those recordings are taken out of context, Daniel stammered without conviction. Out of context? Mr. Thompson laughed. I have 3 hours of recordings, all made in this one-party consent state with your mother's knowledge, which makes them perfectly admissible evidence. Rosa gathered all the fake documents they'd prepared. These documents are fraudulent, she announced. The signatures are forged. Mr. Stevens, their lawyer, was already packing his things, clearly wanting to flee. Now, I said, sitting at my own table like the CEO I'd always been, it's time to talk about the consequences of betraying the woman who gave you life. Sit down, all of you, I ordered. Daniel, Marcus and Jennifer settled into their chairs like students being punished. First, I began, let's talk about real numbers. You believe my estate is worth approximately $1.5 million, correct? They exchanged nervous glances. You're wrong. My actual net worth is over $3 million. The silence was absolute. $3.2 million to be exact. Money you thought you could steal while I was playing with knitting needles in some terrible institution. Mr. Thompson projected a presentation onto the wall showing all my properties, investments and bank accounts. Properties they'd never imagined. 2 condos in Miami, growth fund investments, shares in tech companies, strategic real estate holdings they never knew existed. How? Daniel couldn't finish the question. How did a senile and confused woman manage this without you noticing? I smiled. Very simple. You completely underestimated your mother. Rosa placed another folder on the table. There are also the businesses Mrs. Patterson has been running quietly and the project that matters most to her. What project? Jennifer asked. This was my favourite part. The Hope Centre, I announced, a residential complex for older women who have been abandoned by their families. Women whose children see them as burdens instead of human beings. Mr. Thompson showed a beautiful architectural rendering, a gorgeous complex with gardens, library, art workshops, medical clinics, and dignified apartments for 200 residents. The land is already purchased, I continued. The blueprints are finished, and the permits are in the final approval stage. Construction will begin as soon as the last signature is obtained. And you, my dear children, have just become the primary inspiration for this project. I don't understand, Marcus murmured. Every time you treated me like a useless old woman, every time you planned my future without consulting me, I added another service to the Hope Centre. Thanks to you, it will be the best centre of its kind in the entire country. Mr. Thompson took the floor. The evidence we have, the recordings, the forged documents, is enough for a massive civil lawsuit for financial exploitation and fraud. We would sue you for every penny you have and will ever have. We would also file a report with the district attorney, who would almost certainly pursue criminal charges for elder fraud. You would be financially destroyed and likely face prison. You can't do this to us, Daniel exploded. We're your children. Exactly, I replied, my voice icy. You are my children, and that makes your betrayal infinitely more painful and more unforgivable. I walked up to Daniel. I gave you everything: college education, down payment on your house, money for your business you never paid back. I gave you my unconditional love for 45 years. And this is how you repay me? I turned to Marcus. I paid your son's medical bills, helped you through your divorce, let you live in my house for 2 years. I gave you my emotional support when no one else believed in you, and this is how you repay me. Finally, I faced Jennifer. I welcomed you as a daughter. I defended you when the family criticized you. I included you in my will when you weren't even my blood. I treated you with more love and respect than your own parents gave you. And this is how you repay me. Tears streamed down my cheeks, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of liberation. For months, I let you make me feel useless. I faked confusion when you wanted me to be confused. I acted like the vulnerable old woman you needed me to be. But it was all an act. It was all a test. A test you failed spectacularly, Mr. Thompson added. Rosa placed the final document on the table, my real will. This is my true will, I announced, drafted 3 years ago and updated 6 months ago when your plans became obvious. In this will, I continued, Daniel inherits $5,000, Marcus inherits $5,000, Jennifer inherits nothing. 5,000, Marcus shouted. That's impossible. The rest of my estate, approximately $3 million, will be divided between the Hope Center, 3 charities that protect senior citizens, and Rosa, who has shown more loyalty in 30 years of friendship than you have in a lifetime. Jennifer started to cry. Daniel slammed his fist on the table. Marcus sank into his chair. But, I said, there is another way. A way to avoid the courts entirely. What way? Daniel asked desperately. Work to deserve it. The Hope Center needs administrators. If you can prove over the next 5 years that you truly care about something more than money, if you can prove you understand the damage you caused and are willing to repair it, then we can talk about an inheritance. 5 years? Marcus muttered. 5 years working at the Hope Center for a nominal salary that covers only your room, board, and basic expenses. You will learn the value of work disconnected from wealth. 5 years proving you can value older people as human beings, not as obstacles. 5 years proving you deserve to be called my children. And if we refuse? Jennifer asked defiantly. Mr. Thompson smiled. Then we proceed with the civil lawsuit and criminal report, and you lose any possibility of an inheritance forever. The choice is yours, I concluded. You can leave right now and never see me again, or you can stay and begin the long road to regaining my respect and your own dignity. Your next words will determine whether I still have children or just strangers who share my blood. 5 years passed. The mandatory period of their sentence was over. The Hope Center was no longer a blueprint, but a thriving community, and my children were integral to its operation. The change in them was visible not in grand speeches, but in the calluses on Daniel's hands from manual labor, in the patience in Marcus's voice when he worked in physical therapy, and in the genuine compassion in Jennifer's eyes when she managed the wellness programs. They had become the people I always hoped they could be. Now the real test was about to begin. It was a perfect spring morning. The modified will lay on my desk, sealed in an envelope that contained the final decision about my children's future. At 10 a.m., Daniel, Marcus, and Jennifer arrived at my office in their usual work clothes. Over 5 years, I'd learned to read them, and today they looked calm, determined. "Good morning," I said. "Do you know why you're here?" "Because today marks exactly 5 years since we started working here," Daniel answered, "and according to our agreement, today we are free to go." "Exactly. Your legal obligation has ended. You no longer face criminal charges. You are completely free." The silence stretched. They had prepared for this moment. "We've made a decision," Jennifer finally spoke. "I'm listening." Marcus cleared his throat. "We want to stay. Not because we have to, but because we want to." My heart stopped, but I kept my expression neutral. "Why?" "Because this place has become our home," Daniel answered. "Because these women have become our family. Because the work we do here is the most important work we've ever done. And because," Jennifer added, tears forming, "we finally understand what you tried to teach us, that life isn't about what you can take, but what you can give." I walked to the window. I could see residents in the gardens, walking, laughing, living with dignity. "And what about your careers outside of here?" "Our careers are here now," Marcus said. "I've been studying geriatric physical therapy at night. I want to be certified to better help the residents." "I enrolled in courses on the psychology of aging," Jennifer added. "And I," Daniel said, "have been working with Mr. Thompson to learn non-profit management. I want to make sure this place runs perfectly for decades." I had raised businessmen, and they had finally become social entrepreneurs. "There's something else," Daniel continued. "We want to make a formal proposal." "What kind of proposal?" "We want to officially renounce any inheritance," Jennifer said. "We want all of your money to stay here at the Hope Center forever." I turned to them, genuinely surprised. "Are you sure?" "Completely sure," Marcus answered. "For 5 years, we've seen what well-used money can accomplish. We don't want to be heirs to your fortune. We want to be guardians of your legacy." The tears I'd been holding back for 5 years finally broke free. "Do you know what this means?" "It means we'll work here for the rest of our lives for modest salaries," Daniel said. "It means we'll never be rich, but we'll be part of something more important than money." "It means," Jennifer added, "that we will finally be worthy of being called your children." I walked to my desk and picked up the envelope containing the modified will. With deliberate movements, I tore it into pieces in front of them. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked, confused. "That will gave us $500,000 each." "But you have just proven that you no longer need my money to be the people I always hoped you would be." I took another document from my drawer. "This is my real will," I announced. In it, Daniel is named Executive Director of the Hope Center with a respectable salary. Marcus is named Director of Rehabilitation Programs. Jennifer is named Director of Emotional Wellness and Creative Programs. Their eyes widened. The rest of my estate, approximately $2.8 million, is designated to create a network of similar centers across the country. The 3 of you will lead that expansion, ensuring that no older woman has to suffer what I was about to suffer. "A network," Daniel whispered. 10 centers in the next 15 years. Each one run by people who understand that caring for our elders isn't charity, it's justice. The 3 of them stood and hugged me with an intensity I hadn't felt since they were children. But it was different now. Now it was the embrace of adults who had earned the right to love and be loved. "Why?" Jennifer asked through tears. "After everything we did, why are you giving us this opportunity?" "Because you are no longer the people who betrayed me," I answered simply. "You are the people I always believed you could become. You just needed time to find yourselves." At 76, I had achieved something few mothers ever do, not just raising successful children, but transforming lost children into extraordinary human beings. The legacy I would leave would not be measured in dollars or properties. It would be measured in changed lives, in restored dignity, in love that had been turned into action. I looked up at the stars shining over the Hope Center and remembered the words Richard had written to me in one of his last letters. The real legacy is not a monument, it's a map. He was right. I had created a map for other families to find their way back to love. A map that my children would now carry to thousands more women. Vengeance had become redemption. Justice had become grace. And I, a woman who had been on the verge of being buried alive by her own family, had found a way to resurrect not only my own life, but the lives of everyone around me. It was finally the kind of legacy worth leaving behind.